Okay, we're going to start off with the rhythm guitar. It follows these 4 chords for most of the song. You're going to start off on a root 5 chord or a power chord on the G sharp. So that's the 4th fret of the low E, 6th fret of the A, 6th fret of the D, down to an E, which is the open E string, 2nd fret on the A, 2nd fret on the D. You're going to come up to the B, which is the 2nd fret on the A string, 4th fret on the D string, 4th fret on the G string. And then you're going to take that whole shape down a string to the 2nd fret on the low E, 4th fret on the A, 4th fret on the D. And the only thing that changes is the rhythm. So under the main riff, your chords follow the riff. When you get to the verse, you're just going to palm mute it. You're going to go around twice with that, and then you're going to start adding some stabs. And then the last time round, before you go back into the riff, you're going to open up on the B, before you go back into the riff again. Okay, so the chorus is pretty similar to the verse. It starts off, so you start off on that G sharp, 4th fret of the low E, come down to the 2nd fret of the low E and back up to the 4th. Instead of going down to the E, you're going to come up to the E chord on the 7th fret of the A string, so that's 7 on the A, 9 on the D, 9 on the G. You're going to come down to that B, so the 2nd fret on the A string, finish off on the F sharp, and then back to that turnaround. At the end of the first chorus, before the solo, you're just going to play 3 sets of double stabs on the G sharp on that 4th fret, and then come down to that F sharp, 2nd fret on the low E. So underneath the solo, you're just going to play that main riff again. The only difference is, when you get to this section, you're going to follow that rhythm. Before going back to normal. So at the end of the solo, at the dropped out section, you're going to play something similar to the start of the chorus. Except you're going to hold that chord. You're going to go around again. Holding onto that F sharp. Now I believe it counts for 10 beats, but I could be wrong about that. If you listen to any backing tracks, they'll usually have some sort of a beat you can count along to figure out how long that gap is. After the dropped out section, you're just going back to a chorus and then you're finishing on a last hook. Okay, so onto the lead guitar. The main riff is based around the E major scale. We're going to start off on the 4th fret of the low E string. We're going to come up to the 2nd fret of the A string, to the 4th fret of the A string, up to the 1st fret of the D string. And then we're going to finish off on the 2nd fret of the A string. Next part of the riff is the same as the first, except you start off with an open E string. So that'll be open E to the 2nd fret on the B, 4th fret of the B, 1st fret of the D, 2nd fret of the A. No, that wasn't right. So the second part of the riff is exactly the same as the first, except instead of the 4th fret of the low E, you start off on the open. So the second part of the riff is the same as the first, except you don't start on the 4th fret of the low E, you start off on an open E. The third part of the riff is the same as the first two, except you start on the 2nd fret of the A. So you hit that B twice. And then the fourth part of the riff is the 2nd fret on the low E for one hit, and then you go to the 2nd fret of the D for 2 hits, 2 hits on the 1st fret of the D, and then you come down to the 4th fret of the A for 2 hits. So that whole riff. So the next part of lead guitar that actually comes in is the solo. So we'll move on to that next. We're going to start off with some double stops. Your third finger is going to be on the 11th fret of the G string, and your first finger is going to be on the 9th fret of the B string. And the trick here is to bend the G string up till the note matches the one you're playing on the B string. So the pattern you're going to play is you're going to play both strings together, bend up, play the B string 4 times, and then play the G string while releasing the bend. Do that twice. You're going to play the 11th fret on the G string 3 times. You're going to come down to the 9th fret of the G, to the 8th fret of the G, to the 6th fret of the G. Next, you're going to play another 6th on the G. And then we're going to play some hammer-ons. So your first finger is going to be on the 8th fret of the G. You're going to hammer onto the 9th and pull off back to the 8th. Come down to the 6th fret of the G, hammer onto the 8th and pull off. Come down to the 4th of the G, hammer onto the 6th and pull off. So that whole section. The next section starts sliding from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret of the G. You're going to come up to the 6th fret of the G, 8th fret of the G, 9th fret of the G, back down to the 8th fret of the G, 6th fret of the G, 4th fret of the G, and then to finish off we're going to come back to the 6th fret and then back up to the 8th. So that whole section. The pattern we're going to play here is you're going to hammer on and pull off 4 times on each of the patterns. So the first pattern is the 3rd fret of the G to the 4th fret of the G. Coming up to the 4th fret of the G, hammering onto the 6th. Coming up to the 6th fret of the G, hammering on the 8th. Coming up to the 8th fret of the G and hammering onto the 9th. So this next section is a pattern of double stops, similar to the way that we started the solo. So the first one that we play once is the same as the intro. So 11th fret of the G, 9th fret of the B, bend up. Come up to the 13th fret of the G, 11th fret of the B. You're going to come up to the 14th fret of the G, 12th fret of the B. Finishing on the 16th fret of the G, 14th fret of the B. This next section you're going to bend up on the 14th fret of the B string. You're going to play another note while it's bent. You're going to let go of the bend, come down and play another 14th fret. Come down to the 12th fret of the B. You're going to pull off at the 14th fret of the B down to the 12th fret, and then finish on the 13th fret of the G. This next section you're going to start off on the 12th fret of the B, coming up to a bend on the 14th. You're going to bend up on that 14th, play it twice while it's bent. You're going to let go of the bend and then finish off on the 12th fret of the B. So that whole section. Okay, so next we're going to bend up on the 14th of the B again. We're going to play a double stop by barring with that 3rd finger onto the 14th fret of the high E string. While still barring that 14th on the high E, we're going to release the bend of the B string. Come down to the 12th fret of the B, and then play that pattern again. So the little run that you finish off on. Starts off on the 12th of the B string, you slide down to the 11th on the B string, hammer on to the 12th and pull off. Come down to the 11th fret on the G string, hammer on to the 13th and pull off. Same pattern again on the D string, 11th on the D, hammer on the 13th and pull off. You slide down to the 9th. You're going to hit that 11th on the D. Come down to the 9th and then hit the 9th again for a final time with a bit of vibrato. So that whole section. The only bit of lead guitar to finish off with is in the final chorus. So this little run just goes down the E major scale, goes from the 4th to the 2nd to the 1st on the D, down to the 4th to the 2nd to the 1st on the A, to the 4th to the 2nd on the low E. So that in context. Alright, Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you like this vid, then feel free to hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this one, then hit that subscribe button. That would really help me out. Thanks for watching.